Hey, how you doing? Hope you all are doing great. As you seen in the thumbnail, in this video, we are gonna see, what if Naruto had enough of Kakashi? This is part 1 and before getting into video, I request you to check the author of this fanfic and show some love and support. Name of the story is Second On by Patent Pending. Do check it out. All details in description. And if you want next part of this series, please leave a like, share, and consider subscribe. Let's get into the video. Also check out Patreon for uncensored spicy content, link in description. Naruto awoke to sound of singing birds. He dragged himself out of bed and pulled off his nightcap. The bathroom called him, and he went to relieve himself. He was ponderously slow in the mornings, after waking at all really, so it was no surprise when he spilt a good bit of milk on the table before realizing he was missing his cereal. Filling up his bowl, he went and got paper towels from over the sink and cleaned up the milky mess. I hate soggy cereal. Naruto ate the rest of his breakfast and then moved to get dressed and head out the door. The morning walk to the bridge he, Sakura, and Kakashi still met it each day, woke him up from his morning drowsiness. He sat down on Tihi Bridge and began to wait. Sakura would appear sometime around 9 o'clock, and Kakashi would follow up somewhere around 11 o'clock or noon. This gave Naruto plenty of time to think. What did Sakura think of him after not being able to bring Sasuke back? What did anyone who mattered think? After this thought hit him, he went into himself to steel up his nerves to ask Sakura that question when she got there. When Sakura did show up, it was not as her normally happy and bubbly self. She had seemingly gotten little to no sleep last night, and her eyes were red. Naruto could barely keep his eyes on her for the sorrow he felt wash over. Sakura sat down on the only bench that was there, but as far away from Naruto as she could possibly manage it. She almost seemed afraid of him. Sakura? Naruto asked, testing the water. Sakura looked at him and nodded, as if she didn't trust her own voice right now. What do? Naruto took a deep breath to steady himself. Why was this so hard to ask? What do you think of me? For not bringing him back? Sakura made a choking noise and looked away from him. Naruto moved to comfort her, but she held up a hand and stopped him in his tracks. I have no need for liars. She managed to get out, rather quickly. Naruto nearly fell over. I can't stand it. He isn't here, where I need him, and where Konoha needs him. You failed, you broke your Nindo, and nothing you can say will make it better. Sakura spat, seeming to have shifted from terrified to offended. Naruto bristled just a bit at her words. I tried everything I could think of. He's too far gone for me to get to. What else can you expect of me? Naruto stared her down, expecting a prompt answer. He got one. If you had tried everything, he'd be here. If you'd let someone else do it, he'd be here. But you lied to me and I. She paused for a moment, as though she were about to do something she might regret. I hate you for it. Naruto was shocked for only a moment. He knew that this day might come, the one where he heard the words he thought might break him. However, broken wasn't what he felt at all. All he felt was angry. I do everything I possibly think of, short of bringing a corpse back to Konoha, and you hate me for that? Would you rather have a skull to profess your love to? Your love, until now, was something that I wanted so badly. I made that promise just to see you happy. He turned on his heel and began walking away. Now, I just hope you wither and die, Sakura. You won't be getting my help to get your precious little traitor back. Don't you call Sasuke that. He isn't a traitor. Sakura piped up, finally having found her voice. Naruto's aura flared up. I'll call him what he is. He was someone who didn't deserve you, I thought. I'll impress her and save her some pain. But now, I see something much more clearly. Naruto was a pawn in such a short amount of time that he may have well teleported. It was you who didn't deserve him, just like he always told you. Naruto then removed her from his personal space and walked away. He threw one last comment over his shoulder. His aura, backing up, made it seem to be the final thing he'd ever say to her. Goodbye, Sakura. Even though I don't care, and you don't care, goodbye and good riddance. There is a small problem with having an argument like this in a village full of people who are trained to be assassins and spies. There are too many flies on the wall for this kind of argument to not spread so rapidly as to not come back and bite the arguers in the bottom. The two flies on the wall this time were Hatake Kakashi and Yamanaka Ino. Ino was about to leave to go gossiping, but stopped when she saw Kakashi walked into the clearing and none too carefully put Sakura on a bench. Kakashi sighed. I'm fairly sure you know that you brought that down on yourself, right? Sakura didn't look at him. He made her look directly into his visible eye, right? Sakura shook her head quickly and Kakashi put back down on the bench. Composing himself, he continued. He couldn't stand up to the constant rejection forever, Sakura. He truly and honestly was attracted to you, right until a few minutes ago. He wasn't proud of his feelings and severed them like a mangled limb. I'm not too proud of you as my student to have you treat one of your own teammates like that. Sakura shook at each point Kakashi made and each truth he revealed. She spoke when he paused, but he broke his promise to me and Kakashi cut her off before she got any further with that line of thought. He didn't break that promise. It was a stupid promise to make, like he said. Sasuke is still out there, waiting to be rescued, waiting to be found. Maybe not in his head, but he can still be recovered. The promise is only unfulfilled. But you've just lost your biggest helping hand. I certainly wouldn't follow you into Sound Country to help you get him back. So now, you've got only yourself to get him back. Kakashi stood from his leaning posture. I'm taking you back to my place to clean you up, and then both of us are going to apologize to him. You for saying what you did and me for letting it go on for as long as it did. The girl stood and fell in line behind her teacher. Ino bounded away to spread gossip. After all, what else does the root of the grapevine do? Naruto was packing everything essential in his apartment. Clothes, kunai, and shuriken. The few jutsu scrolls he had that he was trying to master. He packed the stealth, camouflage, and winter clothes that he had near the top if he needed them. Yes, he does so own stealthy clothing. They're just not as comfy. When everything he valued was packed up, he was confronted with the only picture he'd ever been given. It had some sentimental value sometime in the past, but not as it was now. He pulled the picture of Team 7 out of its frame and tore off the pictures of Sakura and Sasuke, put the picture back in the frame, and then put the picture and his wallet in the backpack. When he picked up the backpack, it felt somewhat lighter than it should have. He shrugged it off, attributing to his recent height gain. His old orange suit barely fit him anymore, and it was about high time he got a new one. All 3 of his 4 suits had been birthday presents from Sarutobi or Iruka. The orange suit he'd simply found laying around, and nobody claimed it after a week but him. So that's how he'd gotten every stitch of clothing he owned. Most of the stuff in his backpack was food or weapons. He decided then and there that he would fill up his backpack so he'd have everything he'd need to survive. Some survival gear, more jutsu scrolls, more weapons, whatever he could scavenge or steal. The only people he had qualms taking from in the village were Iruka and the Ichiraka family, as well as most of the rookies. So, he'd just simply avoid taking things from them and then be on his way. Ino had just finished gathering up Tintin, Temari, and Hinata to have a gab session. She was going to talk about what she had seen between Naruto Sakura. I heard that the Hokage is sleeping with Shizune and, no way, she doing with Jiraiya? That's impossible. She'd pound him into the ground before he got a grope. It's gotta be Shizune. If she could ever stop the deluge of comments about the sex life of the Hokage. She sighed. While sex was a nice topic, Temari and Tintin seemed to try to dominate the conversations that they had during their gabfest with it. She was honestly getting tired of hearing the preferences and who's doing who and when and where best to watch from of everyone in the whole damn village. Tintin, Temari. Enough. She hoped that that was enough to get their attention. It was. They looked momentarily sheepish, but knew that when Ino did that, she had something to say, and it was usually a really juicy secret. Hinata started to pay rapt attention too. Thank you for taking a break from your absent sex lives. I'm sure we needed to hear about them, again. Tintin and Temari had the decency to look abashed. Ino continued completely out of her previous character. All right. So, while I was walking home from the marketplace, I overheard something you won't believe. Ino squealed excitedly. Temari and Tintin leaned forward to give their opinions on what is going on. Ayam is running off to become a pop star. Chuji stayed thin. Maybe Jiraiya's got a new book out. Niji and Lee sleeping together. No. Lee and Gai. Ino quickly slapped them upside the head to get their minds back on track. No, I heard Naruto and Sakura arguing. The girls sat back with a mixture of disbelief at this being important and relief, on their parts, that Tintin and Temari wouldn't get to eat this new rumor alive just yet. How is this news? Temari deadpanned. Naruto wins. Ino deadpanned back. The other girl's eyes went wide. Naruto won? As in he actually argued? Tintin asked. Ino nodded and went in for the kill. Kakashi even backed him up afterwards. Naruto poked about that subject, and Sakura went all weepy bitchy on him. Said some things I couldn't quite hear, but whatever it was, it gave Naruto enough spine to stand up to her and tell her off. Ino finished with a flourish. The girls all leaned in, including Hinata, and in excited voices said, "Really?" Ino's sweat dropped and leaned back. Yeah. Really? Ino said. Temari pulled out her smirk and looked right at Hinata. That's great. Now, if only he would notice someone else. Hinata saw who she was staring at and turned the color of blueberry tomato juice. Yeah, well, that isn't too likely right now. The way he stomped off made it look like he was going to. Ino's eyes widened in realization. What? Ino? Where was Naruto going? Tintin prodded. Ino responded promptly, to his apartment. The same realization hit the other girls. Surprisingly, it was Hinata who was first to speak. He wouldn't. He couldn't. Could he? Hinata was near the point of hysterics. Ino threw her a concerned look. I don't know Hinata. I don't think he wants to stay, from the last look on his face. But I hope we're wrong. I hope he's just going to blow it off like he normally does. Hinata paid no heed to Ino's words. She jumped up and sped off towards Naruto's apartment at top speed, the other girls in pursuit. Naruto, open up. Hinata sounded like he might die if he didn't open up. Using her Byakugan, even though it was blurred with tears, she could see no one in the flat. She collapsed, sobbing. The other girls lifted her up and helped the girl walk to her home. Goodbye, you stupid little shitty ingrates. I don't care anymore. You guys never liked me, and I've had enough of your shit. If anyone wants to find me, come looking. I'll be waiting to see if I'm wrong. And with his final words spoken, Naruto left a few dozen stunned Anbu guards looking at him like he had grown several large orifices, all of which were emitting bright and colorful birds. Hayashi was puzzled. He couldn't figure out for the life of him why his eldest daughter was weeping so ferociously. She only did this when someone in the family close to her died, or if he'd given her a severe verbal lashing. But neither had happened today. She wouldn't open her door and had apparently used one of her mother's sealing wards to keep him, probably simply anyone, out of her room. So he went to the most informed person in the village to find out what in blazes was going on. As he left, he was so absorbed in his own thoughts that he didn't see the shadowy form leaving Hinata's room, bounding off to where a certain silver-haired Jounin lived. Hayashi arrived at the Hokage's tower in record time, for not running, and simply went in to see the Hokage. I see that you're being your normal pompous self. What can I answer? Tsunade asked with a bit of bite in her voice. I was wondering if you knew anything that would depress my eldest daughter. Hayashi spoke in a voice that was almost sincere. Why do you care? Her tears, if discovered, would embarrass the Hyuga clan. I must know so I can at least create a cover story. When Hayashi had finished, Tsunade blinked at him. Maybe he'd disappear if she stared long and hard enough. Hokage-sama? Apparently not. I assume you know that Naruto has left the village. Hayashi nodded his head to the Hokage's words. Good riddance to the boy. What has that got to with? Tsunade cut him off. Hinata? You, along with Naruto himself, were possibly the only people I know who didn't know that Hinata was attracted to Naruto. Answer your question? Tsunade said, desperately wanting a stiff drink to make this headache go away. Attracted? In what sense? Hayashi didn't like where this was going. Hinata loves Naruto. Simple enough for you? Nonsense. Why would she try to mar her family's name like that? As soon as the words had left his mouth, Tsunade grabbed him by the shirt collar and lifted the man over her head, nearly pinning him to the ceiling. If this is some shit about the ways of old, again, interfering in a society when those ways no longer function, I simply say this to you. Tsunade drew in a large breath and continued. The ways of old are dead, and the dead are not to be disturbed. Hayashi was so stunned at the Hokage's outburst that he left without another word to her. He had his answer. Shizen walked in holding a bottle. I guess you'll be wanting this now. It's a few decades old scotch. Tsunade was immediately upon her ward. Give that here. Now, she said. Shizen relinquished her hold on the bottle and watched as Tsunade got sloshed really, really fast. As Shizen left the office, she muttered to herself, "Run, Naruto. Run far. Run fast. And don't look back." Hinata knocked demurely on Kakashi's door. It was swiftly opened, and Kakashi seemed slightly surprised to see her. "Hinata, what can I do for you?" he said with a happiness so fake. "Let's not make that analogy. See, can you tell me where Naruto would go?" she said, and Kakashi relinquished his smile. He said if anyone cared to come find him. So that means he's going somewhere he'd feel welcome. He wouldn't go to Sand, because the only people who... He was interrupted by a voice from behind him. He'd go to Wave. "Sakura, are you sure?" Kakashi said, a dangerous edge on his voice. "I regret what I did. As for your question, need I say more than the Great Naruto Bridge?" Sakura said, almost devoid of emotion. Kakashi nodded. He turned back to relay this to Hinata, but she'd heard what Sakura had said and left. "Be safe, Hinata. Godspeed." Naruto had traveled fast, alone, and not stopping that night. He felt tired, but there was something he had to do before he fell asleep. He had to visit Haku and Zabuza's graves. Only there was something wrong. The sword he had left in the ground as Zabuza's headstone had been spray-painted and defiled in other ways not appropriate to describe in a tier-rated fanfiction. Naruto's fist shook in anger. How dare someone, anyone, do that to Zabuza? Naruto quickly made a Rasengan. There was no way he was strong enough to get it out of the ground in one piece, but he could probably carry the two pieces, or may three if he had to. He cleanly cut off the part with the handle, finding it lighter than he remembered, even helping. Something strange was going on with his body, but he pushed it aside. He had work to do. He pulled out the part of the sword that was in the ground. He then set himself to the task of grinding off all the spray paint on the sword in front of him. He fell asleep buffing the sword. Hinata had made camp about halfway between Wave and Leaf and went to sleep herself. She was so exhausted from the previous day's events that she couldn't even hold up her head to watch the embers die out. She didn't hear the wind pass through the trees, on its way to Wave Country. Naruto awoke with a start. Nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary, but just in case, he slung his pack over his shoulder and picked up the two, now clean, pieces of Zabuza's sword. He'd earned a whole lot of money from doing all those boring D-rank missions, and Wave had even managed to scrounge enough up money to actually pay him for the A-rank mission he'd been sent on. He might just have enough to get the sword fixed. That bad feeling intensified until it culminated in a shuriken embedding itself in the ground in front of him. A very large, very familiar shuriken-shaped chakram. "So they sent you, did they?" Naruto turned and asked the masked figure in the tree. "Mizuki," he said, the QB forcing itself into his voice. The masked figure sagged, but only as if it were disappointed at Naruto's observation. "Well, I guess I don't have to wear this stupid ANBU mask anymore, do I?" Mizuki said, revealing his face. "You were in jail. Who let you out?" "The council let me out as soon as you left. You're now a B-rank missing nin by their declaration." Naruto only felt a small tinge of regret. The last tie to Konoha he had just been severed. "So be it. I do suppose you're here to kill or incapacitate me?" Naruto asked quietly. "Yep. Except for that whole incapacitate part. The council wants the QB dead." Mizuki grinned at his instructions. Oh, vengeance would be so sweet. Especially now that he didn't have to worry about harming the scroll the kid wasn't carrying. Naruto just glared at him. "Kid, what? Fox?" Naruto had had sparse, but regular conversation with the QB ever since he'd taken that form to beat Gaara. It was usually trying to tempt him to let him out. "Let me kill him. Let me kill the little ingrate who thinks he can kill me." And for once, Naruto didn't disagree in the least. Naruto just simply let go the barrier in his mind, and everything went blank. QB drew the sword from the pack and threw the rest of the bag down. "You just chose the wrong demon lord to insult. You won't be there to grin much longer, Mizuki." QB's killer intent was dampened coming from a 14-year-old child. Just a little. Mizuki jumped down and drew a second chakram off his back. "Demon lord? Huh. You're just some stupid kid they put him in, and I'm going to kill you both." Mizuki smiled, having regained his confidence. He advanced towards the stationary boy. QB just glared at him. "Consciously, you may be right. He isn't supremely intelligent." QB raised the sword, and in one lightning-swift action, moved to Mizuki, swung, took off his arm, and moved past him. But the Yondaime Hokage wasn't going to put him in a child I would easily be able to trick or bribe. Subconsciously, he is capable of instantly telling lie from truth, fact from fiction. There is something different about this boy. Something you'll never get to know. The killer intent now rolled off of QB in waves that held the bleeding Mizuki stationary. You can't, please, no? QB turned on the now hysterical man and grinned. Don't take on a mission you can't complete. And with that, QB dove in once again, and in a single motion, lopped off Mizuki's head. The demon lord made a few hand seals, and then said, Katon. Pyre flames instantly, Mizuki's body and head were alight. In a few scant seconds, they had been reduced into nothing more than ashes, all of which would be able to tell no one anything. QB relinquished his hold on Naruto with these final words. One day, we will be one. I cannot escape you, but I can change you. All need is a direction to change to. And the wind is being so friendly today. QB took a deep breath, and Naruto's eyes turned from red to their normal blue. Naruto looked about. No Miyusuke. That's good. No remains even. That's better. I can claim he's just simply not found me yet if anyone else comes along. Naruto then looked down at his jacket and pants. They were covered in splatter marks of blood and bits of now rotting flesh. QB. Naruto could feel the demon fox flatten its ears on its head. What, kid? QB responded, not liking where this was heading. Next time I let you out, watch where the splatter goes. I don't want to have to buy new clothes each time I let you do that. Naruto could feel the QB smirk at him. Then just go natural. Naruto mentally glared at QB, both of them knowing that that was not a possibility. But QB would tease him about it for a few moments, and Naruto would either laugh along or feel indignant. Naruto thought to himself, away from where QB could hear. Maybe I brought the one person who can understand with me. Hinata woke up and worked the kinks out of her back by doing her morning stretches. She quickly packed up the little she brought with her and moved out to find her quarry. She ran for most of the morning uneventfully until she came across something lying on the ground, slightly wrinkled from the morning dew. She picked up the scroll and saw that it was an advanced seal-less skill scroll. They were all traditional Konoha skills, like group replacement and group leaf teleport, but there were a few that she'd never even seen before. Ground surfing? Light? And what is this one? Tree imitation. Hinata looked at these techniques very puzzled. Then she realized what she was looking at and smiled broadly. I found him. I'm Naruto's trail. With a renewed vigor, she took off to find the boy of her dreams. Which one of you utterly moronic fools ordered Naruto a B rank missing an iron? And without my signature, we all agreed that it was the best action the village could take. Naruto was a danger on the inside of this village, and who knows what retribution he may try and take for being stuck in that form for so long. And as for doing it without you, you were passed out drunk, something the Hokage should never be. He smirked at her, and she glared back. Shioso slowly walked over to his desk and slammed her fist down on it, smashing the wood and metal contraption clean in half. Naruto is not the QB, merely his container, and a damn good one at that. And Shizune is well capable of making decisions I'll agree with if I'm drunk, asleep, injured, or in any other way. She stared right into this elder's eyes and made him understand the meaning behind her next word. Incapacitated. Now, I'm going to go gather a team of people that I'm going to personally lead to retrieve Naruto. Shizune will be acting as Hokage in my absence. Another elder, this time a woman, spoke up. You will most likely fail. Your emotions are getting in the way of your judgment. Tsunade didn't let her finish. Emotion was what saved your asses during the Sand Sound War. Regardless of that, the woman said with obvious disdain, we have already dispatched Mizuki at 7:30 to exterminate the vermin. Tsunade threw her a cold look which made even the old wench shiver. He is not vermin, nor was he out to kill you until. Tsunade tried to start, but failed, as it was Hayashi, of all people, who interrupted her. Tsunade, you are a Sannin. You could kill us all if you wanted to. We saw that power and wanted you as Hokage because you were strong and learned. But if you cannot see evil where it lies, we have no choice but to. Shiki Fujin sealed away all the evil you are fearing into Naruto's navel. Unless you push Naruto to the breaking edge and make him want to release the demon, there is no more chance of that happening than you spontaneously turning into a young, pretty, demure woman Hayashi. And I do see evil. Just not in Naruto. I don't see it here either. What I see here is corruption and arrogance the likes of which I've never seen in all my travels. I have the rest of Konoha backing me up, regardless of what you say, want, or even do. Konoha has me to moderate your actions. Coming to you for unbiased information was obviously a mistake. There is no way you could prove he is even a D-rank missing nin to me, or anyone else who would truly listen to the facts. Most are simply happy to not have him around anymore. Tsunade turned on her heel to leave, but stopped at the door. Hayashi, you asked me a question the other day about why your daughter was in such an emotional wreck. I gave you the truthful answer, but you couldn't believe it. Tsunade paused for effect. I wonder where she is now. Tsunade left the council wonder what the hell just happened, and Hayashi with a sinking sense of dread. Naruto had switched out his now gore-spattered track suit for his camouflage suit. The stealth suit had turned out to be too small and popped off his body the instant he had it fully zipped up. The winter suit would have been a bad idea for the humid, downright hot climate. In the forest, he was virtually invisible. Here in Wave Country proper, however, he stuck out like a sore thumb. He needed new clothes and fast. But first things first, he had a sword that needed mending. Walking about in the Wave Marketplace was much more difficult than it was last time. Only a few people recognized him, which caused minor gumming in the works, but the main problem was that there were a plethora more people here, making walking at any pace very hard. When he finally got to the road that the blacksmith was on, the crowd had thinned out to the point where he could quickly walk over to the shop. He walked into the small enclosed space where they kept things like the safe and finished goods. He stood there for a moment or two, and no one had come in. He then looked at the door he hadn't come in and read the attached sign. Please step through this door and shout if you need anything fixed or made. Naruto stepped through the appointed door and did what he did best. He shouted, "Oi!" All the hammering in the smithy area stopped for a brief moment before a short woman glided out of the back of the shop and looked at him. She smiled. I hadn't heard a shout like that in years. Whatcha need? The woman actually had to look up to make eye contact with Naruto, something to which he wasn't accustomed to. He pulled the pieces of Zabuza's head chopping cleaver out of his backpack. The woman's eyes went a little wide with excitement. What did you do to this sword? She asked, marveling at the sheer size of the sword. I had to break it in two to get it out of the ground. It belonged to a man I respect, he said, averting his eyes from the woman. She understood. I see. Whatcha say I fix her up for ye, sonny? She got a name? Naruto paused at that. Head chopping cleaver just didn't sound like a name for the sword anymore. That was a title he felt belonged only to Zabuza. He felt that both he and the sword were getting a second shot at everything, and instantly a name came to mind. Second Dawn, he said, confident he had chosen right. The woman smiled at him. We'll have Second Dawn fixed up by tomorrow afternoon, Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto's eyes boggled. Most other people hadn't called him that when he was recognized, and most people expected to see him in his orange jumpsuit, so they just thought it was a passing similarity. She smiled at his expression. That face just tells me I'm right. Naruto stopped looking so surprised. Someone would have eventually recognized him anyways. He nodded, confirming her suspicions. Tsunade sighed. She had only been able to assemble a little less than half of the rookies that were about Naruto's age. Lee and Shikamaru were out on field assignments. Chuji was still recuperating from using the 3 pills during their failed Sasuke retrieval. Hinata was missing, and the Sand siblings had run off as soon as they had heard Naruto was missing from the village. That left her with only Ino, Sakura, Tintin, Niji, Shino, and Kiba. She was reconsidering doing this with so few members, but the solution just walked right into her office. Hakagi-sama, can you tell me something? Kakashi had no idea what he was getting himself into. Asking that question, I can tell you that you are joining me on an A-rank mission to help retrieve Naruto. She smiled when she saw his face pale. He then firmed his resolve, restored color to his face, and he barked an affirmative. And I'd just gotten a date with Anko, too. Oh well, such is the life of a ninja. Naruto had returned to his base camp outside of Wave Country. He'd left Gamakichi and Gamatachi to guard his stuff while he was gone. No one had made off with anything, but one crazy person ran off screaming something about alien invaders or some other nonsense. He dispelled them and gathered his stuff up. He'd sleep near Zabuza's grave that night to protect what remained from any harm, and go to see Tizuna in the morning. He was pitching his tent when he heard something on the wind. Mist, mist, mist. The chant was strange, but audible. Naruto turned to Zabuza and saw something that bothered him. In taking out the large sword, there was no proper memorial to the swordsman from the mist. He'd have to remedy that on his next trip into Wave. I think I understand you better now, Zabuza. Better than I did back then. I understand that you want to change in Mist. To what? I don't know. But you were willing to do anything to change Mist. I'd be willing to change Leaf too. He sighed, laughed, and smirked. But what is a country without its people? He sat there in the long silence, wishing in the depths of his heart that he could talk to the swordsman once more, just to show respects. He heard, after a while, a faint rustling behind him, like someone was walking through the brush to get somewhere. He moved to extinguish the fire to draw less attention to himself when something stumbled into the clearing. A small, poofy thing in a fluffy jacket. Hinata? They sent you this time? Naruto couldn't understand. Mizuki was at least a hardened criminal who could be bribed. What were they trying to pull by sending Hinata? I found you. I found you, Naruto-kun, and I won't let you leave me behind again. Hinata then collapsed into a heap. QB's stamina allowed him to do crazy things, like make a 3-day full-tilt journey in one night. But for Hinata to have caught him in 2 days, she must be on the edge of life, or something to that effect to do that. What would possess her to chase me down in such little time, and of her own motive? At least, I think it's her own motive. It is Kit. She's here because she wants to be. Naruto perked an eyebrow, but said nothing. The reassurance of QB was all he needed for now. He unpacked Hinata's sleeping bag and put the sleeping girl in his tent. He'd be fine sleeping outside. It was Hinata he would worry about for now. His last thought, as sleep claimed him, was, why? Naruto had gotten very little sleep the previous night, but it was enough for him to function the next day. Hinata was bound to wake up any moment now and come crawling out of the tent. She did, and when she crawled out, she eeped and hurriedly went back in the tent. Is this real? Naruto nearly fell of the log he was sitting on. He recomposed himself and began looking in at Hinata, who shied away from him. I am very real, and I have questions I want answered. Hinata looked at him strangely when he brought the serious face to bear. Hinata came to the edge of the tent. Okay. Naruto nodded. Who sent you? Naruto asked, and Hinata turned away. And no one. I came by myself. Naruto gently turned her face towards and looked at her eyes. Seeing no falsities, he let her go and asked the only remaining question now. Why did you follow me? Naruto watched her reaction. She was very quiet for quite a while, and even then, her answer was a whisper. I love you. The sentence was so quiet and so fast. Naruto nearly missed it. But when he had registered this, he was stunned. Hinata loved him? Love? He just assumed she'd been the stammering girl around everyone, not just him. A lot of things about Hinata made a whole lot more sense now. Naruto slouched down and thought long and hard. I've been such a hypocrite. I was ignoring her just like Sakura ignored me and Sasuke ignored her. I don't want to believe it, but on some level, I guess I'm worse than they were. Get real. You didn't know because Hinata never said anything. They were mean. You were just ignorant. QB, you have a very strange way of reassuring someone. I'm so stupid. Ishalden, they've said that. You'll send him away. Naruto interrupted Hinata's rambling. Hinata Naruto's shout got the girl's rapt attention. I am not going to say I return your feelings. I've recently been hurt in that regard, so give me some time to get over that. But I will take care of you. That feeling you have for me is something special and something I want to guard. Naruto moved to embrace the crying girl. Hinata gratefully accepted the hug and began crying into his shoulder, smiling. Remind me why we're bringing her along? Ino asked the Hokage as the entire group moved at an even, steady pace towards Wave Country. She just hoped he'd made some sort of base here and was actually here to find. Kakashi answered her question, for redemption, so she can at least offer the apology, regardless of whether he accepts it. Kakashi finished and moved on. Ino nodded. That's a decent reason. I just wish she was more apologetic looking. She's too robotic-like for me to deal with right now. Ino shuddered as she looked into Sakura's empty eyes. She found that there was something wrong, like she'd broken or something. She was too right. Several miles ahead of them were the Sand siblings. Temari leaned over to Kankuro and asked, "Where are we going?" "Obviously after Naruto." "I'm not arguing with Gaara," Kankuro said, automatically responding to Temari. She hit him over the head and re-emphasized her question. "No, dumbass. I mean, what country are we going to?" "Hell if I know. I think Gaara's just going on impulse to where he feels Naruto is." Temari nodded at Kankuro's words. Gaara was in no doubt, just following the energy left behind by Naruto's inner demon. But why? She knew her brother wasn't liable to simply offer for no reason now. So she took a risk and went to ask him, "Brother, where are we going?" Gaara looked back over his shoulder at his sister. She shivered at his cold stare, which softened on seeing her flinch. He turned his head back to watch where he was going. "We are going towards Wave Country, an ally of Leaf's. Naruto has a few contacts there. We will at the very least tell him of the political movings in Konoha and try and see what his plans are. We will decide our next actions from his responses." Temari digested this. They would either follow Naruto, go back to Konoha, or return home to Sand where Gaara was in line to become Kazekage. She hoped, for everyone in Sand, that Gaara decided to go home and fix Sand. They needed it. Naruto had spent a good portion of the morning just simply talking with Hinata, finding out more about this girl who loved him. He liked what he heard and saw of the young woman who wanted to follow him around. When Hinata's stomach rumbled, Naruto smiled. "Let's go into town and get some breakfast," Naruto suggested, and Hinata demurely nodded. "Before we go, Kuchiyos no Justu." Toad twins summoned instantly. Gamakichi and Gamatachi appeared before him. "What you need, Aniki?" Naruto smiled at Gamatachi's words. "I need you guys to do guard duty again. But this time, you've got to guard someone else's stuff as well, okay?" The toads nodded and began to march in little circles around the encampment. Naruto grabbed his wallet and motioned for Hinata to move towards the village. She nodded, and he watched her go. "She is beautiful, is she not? She would probably like you to. Lay off until she's older. QB, okay? Especially with the images." Naruto didn't like it when QB took hold of his imagination and showed him weird images, but there was nothing he could do to stop the demon except to tell him off. "All right, I have something more important to talk to you about anyways." When QB said it was important, it was, well, important. "What is it?" Naruto asked him. "For some time when you were very young, I plotted and schemed to get free, to destroy you, my container, and finish what I started 14 years ago. However, the more I looked for a way out, the more I saw that I couldn't get out. It frustrated me to no end, and I eventually gave up for the time being. I entertained the idea of maybe corrupting you to the point to where I wouldn't have to escape, but I knew that was destined to fail the moment I said the word lie. You've got that unique ability to instantly know a lie. You know that?" Naruto shrugged. "Of course I do. When Orochimaru sealed away my power and kept you from it, I got an idea. I can't leave my cage, and I can't control you. But maybe I could change the way you and I interacted. I could warp my cage into something much more suitable for both of our continued survivals. We could partially merge." QB felt Naruto's utter distaste for the idea right away, so he tacked on, "I said partially for a reason. I would still be me, a voice in your head, and you would still be you, the loudmouth you are. But my power and knowledge would be yours and yours mine. We'd be able to interact and switch places much more swiftly and efficiently." True to demon form, he just had to make it sound like a deal or sale of some sort. Interested? Naruto was truly interested. He'd have more than enough power to protect those close to him, but he felt there was some sort of snag. "What's the catch?" QB smiled, anticipating this answer. "Physical changes. You'll probably look different, have different skin textures and hair colors, but other than that, you'd still be you. And my power would stop stifling your growth." Naruto got happy at that thought. "How long would it take? I've already got most of the sigils in place, but this wouldn't be something we could do in one shot. It'll probably take about 4 or 5 tries to get this all the way done. I don't really know how your body will react, and I don't want to destroy us in the process." Naruto smirked. He had hoped the silence he'd left Hinata in was companionable. A shadow passed over his face. He'd have to tell her about QB in order to make sure the change didn't scare her too much. They were at the breakfast place before much longer. It was very different from the more traditional places that were nearby. "I called itself a pancake house," In the previous morning, Naruto had gotten himself hooked on the pancake. I think you'll like the food here, Hinata. It's very sweet and very different from rice and pickles in the morning. Naruto whispered in her ear, making the girl start and blush that he was whispering in her ear. I hope so. Naruto smiled, still as shy as ever. That was probably the only thing he wanted to change about Hinata, her self-confidence. He hoped she'd just grow out of it. Welcome back. Table for two. This morning, the motherly figure at the hostess's counter gave him an insufferable smirk. He put a hand on Hinata's shoulder and smirked back. Of course. Observant. You are? His smirk grew in size to match hers. Right this way, please. The woman led them to a table and seated them. Your waitress will be with you in a few minutes. Here are your menus. Please enjoy, she said, wandering back to her post. Naruto smiled. You won't recognize anything on the menu. It's from really far away. A pancake is sort of like a pastry that's flat and round. It's mildly sweet and goes good with that syrup right there. He pointed to a bottle on the table. You can get all sorts of things on your pancakes, but I'll just let you decide that for yourself. Naruto went back to entertaining himself with asking for carrot pancakes, just to see the look on the waitress's face when said it. He decided that carrots weren't quite far out there enough to be a real shocker. Eggplant was just too weird, and tomato might actually be something they'd entertain. Lettuce, he decided, would be a good choice. He continued to read his menu to see what he was going to actually have. Hinata was insanely happy. She was eating a meal with Naruto. She could hardly believe her good luck. She looked at the menu and felt a bit of a chocolate attack. She'd have one chocolate chip pancake, just to test the waters. The waitress arrived, a little shaken looking, but otherwise fine. Hi, I'm Kaori. I'll be your waitress this morning. What'll it be? She stood poised for a moment, before adding, you two look really cute, by the way. Hinata felt her ears burn. Naruto was at a loss for words for a moment, then recovered. I think I'd like lettuce pancakes this morning, he said with a face that was so serious, you could probably be able to crack an egg on it. Hinata and Kaori both balked at the idea. Naruto allowed himself a small laugh. Kaori recovered and saw his laugh. She smiled. You're funny. You know that? She spoke with a knowing tone, and Naruto nodded. I'll really have cherry pancakes, 4 of them, and a big glass of milk. Kaori smiled at his real order and jotted it down. She turned to Hinata and smiled at the shy girl. I'll each have 1 chocolate chip pancake and some chocolate milk. Kaori perked an eyebrow. You sure that's going to be enough breakfast for you? Pancakes are only about this big. Kaori made a size reference to something like a track discus. Hinata nodded and then thought about it. Some bacon would be nice, she added quietly. Kaori smiled. All right, bacon, too. Kaori walked past Hinata before pausing to whisper in her ear. Surprise him. You need to be bold. Just go kiss the sucker, already. Hinata turned the color of a beet, and Kaori laughed lightly. Naruto wondered what the heck was going on. Kiba, Shino, Niji, please don't try to kill each other now. It's a simple 3-day walk. How can this be so difficult? Tsunade still didn't understand how Shino and Kiba had gotten so bruised during a training practice. Don't worry about it, Hokage-sama. Niji's usually this rough. Lee and I are about the only ones who are used to it. Tintin came to the rescue. The Hokage nodded at the explanation, but still looked miffed. Kakashi sighed and sent Shino and Kiba to go fishing. Akamaru trotted behind, limping, but still happy as a puppy. They'll bring back dinner enough for all of us, Kakashi assured the Hokage. The only other person he was pretty sure at least wanted Sakura in good health. Tsunade nodded and moved on to help Niji set up camp for the first night. Sakura, could you please come here? Tsunade asked, tone brooking no argument. Not that the robot like Sakura was seemingly capable of that at the moment. Sakura nodded, and Tsunade continued. Do you know where in Wave Naruto is most likely to go? Tsunade waited a moment for Sakura's reply. He'd go to Tazuna and his family. They assumed basic command of the mercantile wave state after Gatta's control collapsed. Sakura's response was informational and monotonic. Tsunade sighed and said to her, cheer up, you'll get to see him again soon. Tsunade didn't realize that Naruto wasn't the one she wanted to see again, but he might lure out the one she did want to see. Hinata had taken Kaori's words of needing to be bolder to heart. She had surprised even herself when she attached herself to Naruto's side, but neither party complained. Naruto had his arm around her shoulder, and she had hers on his waist. Kaori must have been the only one who saw them as a couple, because the rest of the people just smiled when they saw two good friends walking together. Gata may be gone, but there would always be someone who wanted to do others harm. Naruto directed the pair into a clothing shop, one called the Outdoorsman. He needed new clothes, and he wouldn't be able to replace some of them in Wave. He'd have to wait until he got to a ninja village. He paused a moment on that thought. He'd have to masquerade himself as a homeless ninja, one who no longer belonged anywhere, to allow himself passage into any village who was less than friendly with Konoha. He'd have to buff smooth his high 8 SP to pass as one, and he'd either have to get Hinata to do the same, or at least just hide hers. They walked around the store, Naruto carrying a basket to hold his clothing choices in. He'd seen a dark crimson windbreaker on sale that he'd really liked. It had a collar he could flip up in case of storms, and even had a hood he could zip into a hidden pocket. The jacket was almost too big for him, his fingers barely sticking out the end, but he reasoned it was a good idea because he was apparently going to be growing quite a bit in these next weeks and months. He hadn't seen much else he'd like, namely a shirt to go underneath, until a sign caught his eye. Muscle tees, 2 for 1 sale. Naruto liked the sound of that. Muscle tees were notorious for ripping in intense situations, but they kept the bugs off the skin they covered. And for that deal, he could afford 8 or 10 of the silly things. Hinata went a little flush at the sight of him in a muscle tee, but it quickly passed when Naruto put his windbreaker back on over it. The shirt and jacket combo clashed rather badly with the green and brown camouflage pattern on his pants, but he just simply ignored it. He was going to buy some more pants anyways. Naruto looked at Hinata and realized something. Aren't you hot in that jacket? Nights in Konoha might call for it, but here in Wave I'd think it was too hot. Hinata's face went pale. He wanted her to take off her jacket? She knew that the only reason she wore it was to conceal her body, but she didn't like the way other boys looked at her when she didn't wear it. She was told by her mother that she had grown up rather quickly and had a body more like an 18-year-old than a 14-year-old. She was just a very short 18-year-old. Hinata decided to lie. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. I am not hot. Naruto looked at her and Hinata froze under his scrutiny. You're lying. Hinata's eyes went wide. How'd he know? It's okay if you don't want to take off the jacket. I just thought you'd be too hot with it on. Naruto shrugged and went back to browsing through the canvas pantaloons he'd found, looking for a few pairs that fit him. Hinata stood there for a moment, before remembering what Kaori had told her, something she wanted to listen to, surprise him. Hinata quickly took off the jacket and told Naruto, "You're right. Maybe it is too warm to wear this jacket." Naruto nodded and pulled off 3 pairs of pantaloons and put them in the basket. He turned around and saw why Hinata was wearing that jacket. My, isn't she a big girl? Naruto was instantly upon QB, hoping to stem the flood of images he knew were sure to follow that statement. Don't you dare, Fox. I will. Damn it. Why are you doing this to me? Aren't you supposed to be busy? Naruto felt him smile. Of course I'm busy, but that doesn't mean I can't harass you at the same time. Naruto put his head in his hand. Do you want me to put the coat back on? Hinata said, quietly, not liking some of the attention she was already drawing. Naruto shook his head. No, don't. I've got something to talk to you about that will make a whole lot of things make sense. Naruto steeled himself to remember to tell Hinata about QB. Hinata smiled, if faintly. Naruto was going to entrust her with a secret. She dared not hope, but knew that this was a step in the right direction. I'm going to go browse. Okay, Naruto? Naruto smirked. Be back in 10 minutes, or you're in trouble. Naruto gave her a look that nearly froze her in place. She isn't ready for me to tease her yet, it seems. Naruto's face softened. I was just teasing you, Hinata. Go enjoy yourself. Hinata unfroze and blushed. She hurried away quickly. She was going to need new clothes. After all, Naruto sighed. Maybe he wouldn't need as much time as he thought. Temari was exhausted. They'd been running and tree-hopping for most of the day. It was late afternoon, and she was pretty sure that they were a good 2/3 the way to Wave. She was also positive that she nor Kankuro could take another step. Gaara must have realized this when he came back to see where they were. You two make camp. I will return after I have seen Naruto. If I am not back by morning, come looking for me in Wave's main city. Temari gave him a faint nod and began setting up the one tent that they had between them. It was large enough to house them all, and she and Kankuro wouldn't be sleeping on top of each other if they had to share it. Good thing, too. She never did like sleeping right next to him. Gaara picked up his pace and moved out towards the Wei village. He wanted to talk to Naruto one last time before Naruto was chased off by the Leaf Nin he was sure were at least a day behind him, maybe two. He wanted to know what he could do without Shikaku dictating every movement of his life. After a half an hour of the breakneck pace he was putting out, he saw something out the corner of his eye. It was well concealed, but he knew it when he saw it, a camp. However, there was something off about it. Two large toads were standing very still. One was apparently asleep, and they looked to be guarding the camp. He vaguely remembered from his battle with Naruto that Naruto summoned toads. Maybe this was his camp. Hold who, eep itsu Gamakichi squealed, instantly waking Gamatachi. What ash? What's going on? Gamatachi said. Gaara's here, what'll we do? Gamakichi and Gamatachi hugged and huddled away from the very confused Gaara. You will tell me where Naruto is. He didn't recognize these toads, but apparently they recognized him. Either Naruto or his sensei had summoned them during their battle, mostly likely Naruto. The toads relaxed. He went into town, Gamatachi quickly admitted. Gaara nodded and started to walk away. He remembered something Temari had told him about thanking someone for doing what you asked of them. He decided to try it out and see what happened. You're welcome? Gamakichi tested. Gaara nodded and then was off at the pace he'd had before getting to the camp. Naruto saw that it was fairly late in the afternoon. He nodded to himself and decided to wrap up the clothing shopping. He'd found the muscle tees, windbreaker, and pantaloons, but also bought a fisherman's vest, flannel shirt, fisherman's hat, waterproofed canvas fishing pants, and fishing boots as a disguise. He thought it was pretty ingenious. She bought several dark shirts that were simply baggy and hid her distracting figure rather well. She hadn't bought any pants, but he figured she must have had some with her in her stuff. They'd paid for their purchases and were carrying them back to their campsite, which they were going to pack up and move to Tezuna's house, when Naruto remembered that his sword was going to be done now. Hinata, I've got one last errand I need to do before we go back to camp. Do you mind going on ahead by yourself? She shook her head and went off to take her stuff to the campsite. Naruto smiled and went to collect his new sword. Oh, why, he shouted. He knew that the woman from before would probably be the one to come and talk to him if he shouted like that. You're back. We're putting the finishing touches on it right now. Come have a look. Naruto followed her to the back of the smithy and saw that one of her students was quickly and professionally etching second dawn in proper kanji into the thinner blade. Naruto smiled. It really was a different sword, wasn't it? The blade itself was still as long as he remembered, about 7 feet in length, plus the 3-foot handle. The handle was much darker now, probably made from mahogany or a deeply stained cherry, but it was still functional. Can I get a wrap for the sword? The lady feigned insult. You think we wouldn't have wraps for swords this large? Naruto smiled at her act. I'll take a black one, if you've got it. She nodded and pulled out a gargantuan piece of black fabric, and as soon as the student was done etching, showed Naruto how to wrap the sword up. As soon as he had put the sword on his shoulder, however, he nearly dropped it in surprise. Naruto, we need to talk. Naruto jumped into the air and pointed second dawn at the intruder. Gaara, don't do that. Naruto saw the severity in his eyes and knew there was trouble on the horizon. Naruto had led Gaara back to the camp where Hinata, Gamakichi, and Gamatachi were busily packing everything up. Gamatachi kept putting the wrong clothes in the wrong bag, and Gamakichi was trying his hardest not to eat the young pair's food. Gamakichi, pick up the pace. We're going to need to move even sooner than I anticipated, Naruto said, and just began to shove random articles of clothing into one of the 2 bags. The Toad twins and Hinata followed suit. I suspect that it will be Tsunade herself that leads this team. She was quite upset when she heard that they dispatched Mizuki to come and kill you. Naruto perked an eyebrow and paused for a moment. She was angry? Gaara nodded at Naruto's question. She was furious and gave the Council of Elders a piece of her mind. They'd sent Mizuki without her authorization. Gaara watched as the emotions played out over Naruto's face. So the old hag isn't out to get me. That's reassuring. But I'm not going back. Ever. There is no force that can bind me to that village. I won't harm them, but they need to take care of themselves now. Naruto picked up the bag he'd filled to the brim and he started taking apart the tents. The Toad twins were helping Hinata with the remaining supplies and clothes. I will try to avoid them. I don't think that would be a possibility or a good idea. Facing them down would prevent them from following you too soon and allow you to make a getaway. Naruto glared at what he thought Gaara was implying. I didn't say kill them. Incapacitate them for several hours and then disappear. That's all it would take is what I'm saying. Naruto nodded, the plan Gaara suggesting settling better in his mind. I'll try that. But first, I need to figure out where to go. Naruto sat down and began neatly stuffing the tent into its bag. You will be welcome in Hidden Sand. Gaara almost looked hopeful, and Naruto shook his head. It's a nice offer, but they would expect me to go somewhere that I had friends. If I want to disappear, I need to go somewhere they won't think I'd go. Gaara gravely nodded at his friend's grim resolve. He had no suggestions, and he held his silence because of it. The Packers finished after a few moments, and they and Gaara began to head back into Wave Country proper. Naruto looked over at Gaara and said, "Where are your siblings? They will come to Wave Country in the morning. It appears that they cannot run like you or I can." Naruto nodded. They were only going at half pace, but Hinata was having trouble keeping up. He dismissed the Toad twins, and they managed to make it back to Wave Country in time for dinner. Tsunade awoke with a kink in her low back. She slowly hobbled to the embers of the campfire and heaped more wood on the smoldering embers. She then used a simple fire jutsu to get the fire roaring. She started to heat some water up when Kakashi woke up. "I've got a bit of odd news," he started, staring more at the fire than her. "Odd news is better than bad, right?" Tsunade pulled the now hot water off the fire and poured it into a water skin, which she then held to her low back. Kakashi nodded, hopefully. "Sakura seems to be dreaming about Sasuke. She's honestly said more around me asleep than she has awake." Kakashi paused as if to compose his thoughts. What kind of dream does she seem to be having? Kakashi shook his head. Other than something autoerotic? I've got no idea what she's dreaming about. We'll probably need Ino or someone to dig around in her head. Tsunade considered this possibility. Ino would be able to extract the needed information about what the heck is going on in Sakura's head. She didn't need a crazy genin on her hands in such a delicate situation. I'll ask Ino sometime today. Kakashi nodded at Tsunade's idea. The other genin were stirring. It was time to eat breakfast and get moving. Tsunade was determined to get Naruto back. She wouldn't let anything get in her way. She just hoped that Naruto wanted to come back after all this mess. Tazuna-san, Naruto knocked at the door of the house. It was in the same place it had been the last time he'd been in Wave, but apparently being in control of a mercantile state had its benefits. The house had eaten a couple of its next-door neighbors, and they had built a wall all the way around the premises. Naruto heard footsteps. "I'm sorry, Tazuna isn't in right now. He's at..." Oh, Naruto. Tsunami was very surprised to see Naruto and two people she'd never seen before on her doorstep. "Hello, Tsunami. May we come in?" Naruto asked. Tsunami was stunned for a moment before letting them in. Wasn't Naruto shorter than this? "Of course, come in, come in. Tazuna is busy at the government office. Inari's in school. Would you like some dinner?" The group nodded and took up places in the kitchen to where they could all see and hear Tsunami. "May I ask what brings you to Wave, Naruto?" Tsunami's question was innocent enough, but it brought up things Naruto wasn't done digesting. He replied without giving too much away. "Unrest in Konoha." Tsunami knew that tone well. It was the one Tazuna used when he wasn't ready or willing to talk about a subject. She quickly shifted gears and motioned at Hinata and Gaara. "Who are your friends?" Naruto looked at the two and looked for nods. He got them both from Hinata and Gaara and continued. "He is Sabaka no Gaara. He's from Hidden Sand. We met under less than ideal circumstances during the Chunin exams." Gaara nodded again. He moved on. "She is Hyuga Hinata. She's from a noble family in Konoha, but I don't think that is telling you much about her. She's not treated very well by most of her family and simply followed me here." As the words came tumbling out of his mouth, Naruto realized that Hinata needed him a lot more than he thought. Hayashi wouldn't take lightly to Hinata running off like this. "How do you do?" Tsunami said, politely nodding to them before turning back to her meal preparations. "I will go and see if my siblings have arrived in the village yet," Gaara said, stepping out of the room. Tsunami thought for a moment to stop him before receiving a shake of the head from Naruto. "Won't do you any good to try and stop him. He rarely takes orders from others. Tsunami nodded and added more food to her preparations. Hinata moved in. Let me help. Tsunami was grateful for the extra hands, and every now and again, she would stop Hinata from adding a spice, or add one the girl suggested she add. Naruto just fell into the background and began thinking. All right, Gaara said that Tsunade was leading the team. Probably not going to be a violent confrontation, at the very least, not at first. I wonder who she's brought with her. Probably brought along as many faces who want you to come back as she could round up in the short amount of time she had. Naruto nodded at that. That'll be what? 4 or 5 faces? Maybe 6? I doubt she'd bring non-ninja along. The road between Wave and Leaf is still really dangerous. He looked out the window to see Gaara talking to someone on the other side of the wall. You two are slow, Gaara said, no inflection in his voice. Kankuro spoke up. I think there's a difference between us, being normal, and you being insanely fast. Gaara looked at his brother with surprise. He'd never spoken out like that before. He found his brother's new attitude towards him liberating. Perhaps. Come inside quickly. Gaara jumped down off the wall, his siblings following a moment later. Once all of the ninja got inside, they all sat around the table in Tsunami's dining room, waiting for Hinata and Tsunami to bring the dinner out. They'd offer to help, but the two girls took up most of the kitchen as it was. After a peaceable meal, Naruto pulled Hinata off to the side. It was time for him to keep his promise. Remember how I said I had something to tell you, Hinata? She nodded her head, and he continued. You remember the QB, right? And how the Yondaime killed it 13 years ago. Hinata nodded her head again. All the children at the academy had learned of the Yondaime Hokage's sacrifice to destroy the demon that was running rampant in the village. Why are you telling me this? Hinata asked, wondering where this was going. The QB isn't dead. The 4 words sent a shock through Hinata's system. That monster was still free to roam, kill innocents. The Yondaime couldn't kill him, but he could seal it away. And he sealed it. Naruto picked up his shirt and flowed chakra right through his navel. Right here. Hinata went wide-eyed. The cheerful and energetic boy she loved was the vessel for such a murderous creature? She went slack against the wall. It was a bit overwhelming, to say the least. I'll understand if you want to return to Hidden Leaf, Naruto said quietly. Hinata's head snapped up, but she made no other movements. A little voice in the back of her head came alive. Surprise him. Hinata lunged forward and almost knocked Naruto off balance. He looked down at the girl to see that she was tearing up. He almost spoke when he heard her soft question. Are you? Naruto smiled and nodded. I'm me. That's all I need to hear, Hinata said, and stood up to a more graceful stance. Naruto tightened the embrace. Thank you for being so accepting, Hime-chan. Hinata blushed at the nickname, but didn't say anything. Well, I'll be darned. You disappear off the edge of the world for a few months and lo and behold, you come back with a girlfriend. Naruto and Hinata both jumped at the new voice. It was after dark and all. Who wouldn't expect the owner of the house to there at that hour? Tazuna, Tsunami's already told me everything I think I need to hear. You two just scurry on up to meet your friends to go to bed. You've had a rough day. Naruto smiled in gratitude to the old man. But he almost wanted to strangle the man when he shouted up the stairs. And don't do anything, Tsunami's gonna have to clean up after Hinata nearly fainted at the comment. And Naruto tried to block out the deluge of images that QB was sending his way, showing how to accomplish that without the normal mess. You're an obnoxious git. You know that? Naruto could only hear the sound of QB's laughter. Tsunade went about her business setting up the camp. Most of the genin she had with her were utterly exhausted. She had given them a hard march to get them past the 2/3 point, so it wouldn't be nightfall when they arrived in Wave Country. It was time. She'd kept Ino talking until all the genin were fast asleep. She motioned for Kakashi to join her, and she started talking. All right, now that everyone else is asleep, I can propose this to you. Ino sat up a little straighter. What would the Hokage want to tell her that she'd wait for everyone to go to sleep before telling her? Something is wrong with Sakura. It may be nothing. It could be she's plotting to kill us. All I know is that something is very wrong and she won't speak of it. And I think we need to know before we take her to see Naruto, in case her seeing him will make it worse. Ino nodded. Knowing your friends was a good step in the direction of staying alive. All right, what do you want me to look for? She asked, wanting to go to bed. Anything out of the ordinary in Dreamland, Tsunade said. Ino looked at her, and smiled. Everything is out of the ordinary in dreamland. But I know what you mean. Let's make this fast. I want to get to sleep. Ino moved to cast the jutsu she had used in the Chunin exams to invade Sakura's dreaming mind. She was embarrassed to watch Sakura's debauchery in person, but she hadn't noticed her yet, so she just enjoyed the show, watching for anything out of the ordinary. Hello. That was weird. The dream ought to ignore her until Sakura noticed her. You don't belong here. The strange figure was now in front of her. It looked vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place him. I will eliminate you now. The cloaked figure raised a kunai, and she knew it was time to run. She had found something out of place in Sakura's mind. Now just to ascertain what in blazes it was. It won't hurt for too long, I promise. The cackling voice behind her didn't reassure. As she ran, she began to think. There's a something invading her mind, and she's dreaming about Sasuke. She looked over her shoulder and saw that wherever the mysterious figure stepped, it seemed to reconfigure the world around it. And whatever's in here, it's reshaping Sakura's mind. Wait, reshaping? There aren't too many ninja who can do something like that. It's got to be. Ino's thoughts were cut off as the figure caught her and roughly shoved her up. The force of the expulsion from Sakura's mind was sufficient enough to knock Ino over and to the verge of consciousness. Before she lost her grip on reality completely, she heard a few final words. You will remember none of this, and you will not do this again. And Ino couldn't help but agree. Tsunade was alarmed when she saw Ino fly out of Sakura's tent. She went over to check on the girl and found that physically, she wasn't injured. She just hoped that Ino would be okay. When she felt she could do no more, she and Kakashi turned in for the night. Dreaming a few dozen miles away, Naruto shifted in his sleep. That voice was back and wasn't leaving him alone. Naruto was wandering about in a dense fog bank. There were no reference points except random points of light that stubbornly remained in the distance. He couldn't tell if he was going in a straight line or in a circle or any other random shape. And that voice continued to repeat itself. Mist, 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 mist. What about the damn mist? Naruto shouted, hoping to get a response from the voice. Instead, the voice wavered, sounding like it was shifting between radio channels. The message was a bit clearer now, but something still seemed to be missing. Come to mist, come to mist, come to mist, come to mist. Hey QB, what? Kit, were you paying attention during that dream I was having? QB snorted. I guess you mean the last one, right? Because I don't think you'd talk to me about the other ones. Naruto felt like he should be embarrassed, but passed it off as just one of those nagging impressions. What was going on there? Someone was trying to contact you, but they're really far away. Naruto began muttering to himself. Someone wants me to go to Hidden Mist. But why? Well, it gives me a convenient direction to go in if I need to leave. Naruto kipped up and silently left the room. The sun was just rising, so he knew he was waking up earlier than he normally did. He walked towards the noises that were coming from the kitchen. He startled the still sleepy Tsunami. Naruto, dear child, you need to learn to make more noise in the morning. Naruto grumbled something about getting killed, and Tsunami just resumed cooking. The others, less sleepily than Naruto but still as silent, shuffled their way into the breakfast room and began to munch on things that they had brought down with them. Tsunami, seeing that extra food would probably not be needed, decided to not make more food. Kit, I'm ready. Naruto was startled and full awakeness. He turned inward to talk to the fox. For the whole merging thing? Yes. This one is a long shot, so we'll need to try this again at least once, but most likely more times than that. How close should people be? Naruto didn't want something he was doing to harm anyone. People should stand well back. 1 or 2 should be nearby, just to make sure you don't go crazy. Hinata should be able to stem any rogue chakra flows. Naruto nodded. And Gaara, he'd be able to pin us down if we started to flail about. We don't want to hurt ourselves, now do we? Naruto got up and made his way to the door. Gaara, Hinata, can I borrow some of your time? The two walked over to him slowly. He dropped into a low whisper. Kyuubi has come up with a good deal for the both of us. He is no longer an immediate danger to those around me. I think I've tempered him out just a bit. But what I'm about to do, I'll need you two to keep me from hurting myself. I need you to run crowd control and make sure no one gets too close. Kyuubi doesn't even know how this is going to turn out. Gaara looked at him confidently and took up a position to keep interlopers from coming out. This was going to be an undoubtedly loud event. Hinata seemed less sure. Will this hurt you? Change you? Hinata asked quietly, concern pouring out her eyes. Naruto gave her one of his electric smiles. Hurt me? I'll probably pass out from the pain. As for change, it will only be superficial. I'll not be any different after this, but I'll look it. Hinata gave him a hug and squeezed tight. Her resolve at least to the point of seeing this through. She took a position a few feet from his side. Naruto laid down in a dirt patch, not want to disturb the local flora too much. It's go time. Naruto gave the QB the affirmative. Houston, T-3 seconds and counting. Naruto was instantly confused. What? QB sniggered. Something from before your time. And then, without any further ado, it began. Red chakra stormed out of every pore on Naruto's body, some like foxtails, other like fox heads. The chakra would coalesce into larger shapes on occasion, but other than that, didn't do a whole lot. And then, Naruto started screaming. Everyone on the inside of the house, including Tazuna and Inari, ran outside. Gaara used his sand tendrils to restrain them. No, Hinata can stop the chakra, and I can overpower it. You'll only get hurt getting close. Most people stopped struggling after this comment, but Inari was still trying to get over to the person he thought was dying. The process was rather painful. After all, let me go, I gotta help. Tsunami took Inari from the sand hand which held him and spoke to him softly. I think he doesn't need it. He's got Hinata and Gaara to make sure nothing's going to go wrong. Tsunami threw a worried glance at Naruto. At least, I hope. Gaara nodded his head. It has not gone wrong yet. Suddenly, form of QB's head appeared over Naruto's body. Hinata was startled at the sudden manifestation. Sabaku no Gaara, I would have a word with you. Gaara turned and looked at the head that was floating a few feet off the ground. What do you need, Kishijun? Gaara said in his usually terse form. The QB head jerked to the left a little and raised Naruto's arm. I haven't much time, so I will make this simple. Akatsuki is trying to capture the Court of Tails. Shikaku can tell you what this implies. Take this scroll and do as I have done. We will hide ourselves in these human bodies to keep our power from those who cannot wield it. The chakra bent in on itself 1, twice, 4, 10, 100 times, and coalesced into a scroll in Naruto's hand. Gaara moved and grabbed the scroll from his hand. I know what to do now. I only need to get back. And just as suddenly as it had appeared, the head disappeared into Naruto's body, and it began to change. Naruto began to get visibly taller, and his hair turned a more orange shade. The whisker marks on his face got thicker for a moment, and then went back to being their normal self. Scarlet sigils began popping up on his body. On his cheek and his hand were ones that the onlookers could make out. They then faded back into his rapidly tanning skin, and just as it had started, it stopped. Hinata bent over him and looked for signs of life. Breathing. Good. Heartbeat. Good. Open eyes. That's very good. Naruto sat up and murmured to where only Hinata and Gaara could hear. And so, it begins. He turned his head and looked straight at something. Only he was aware that he was staring straight at Tsunade. Tsunade awoke with a start. She could feel eyes on her. She was instantly on her feet and looking about the outside of the tent. She could only see birds and other small woodland creatures occasionally pausing to look at her. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was so weird too. It felt like Naruto was watching her. However, she forgot about the feeling she was being watched as soon as Kakashi came back from his morning exercises. Hokage-sama, I have some bad news. Tsunade frowned. I don't like bad news. What is it? Sakura is gone, he said quietly as to not cause the still sleepy genin to wake up. Tsunade put her face in her hand. This trip was getting more complicated by the minute. Go and find her. I'll take the remaining genin into wave with me. Kakashi nodded and departed. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for today, guys. Take care, bye.